Welcome to the Trainwell podcast, the first edition of the 2025 brand new year. Darian and I are here today to talk about goal setting for all you New Year's resolution folks. We're going to talk about what common mistakes are. We're going to go on a little tangents here and there too about our little stories and personal successes we've had, or even horrible train crashes we've had with ourselves or our clients. So we're going to bring you all the new hype with how to set a good resolution goal this year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. This is an exciting episode to be starting the new year off together. I'm curious, Joey, we could just hop right in. Are you going to be setting a 2025 New Year's resolution?
Yes. It's to be a better uncle to my niece and nephew. And of course, to make sure we spoil our little Zoe, our little 1-year-old. How about you, Dee?
I don't make New Year's resolutions.
Tell me why.
I think because I've realized that I never meet the expectations I set for myself. I used to make these very lofty resolutions about like everything I wanted to change about myself in my life, and then I never did it. And then there was no meaning. I was realizing like, why did I want to even do that? There's like no meaning behind it. It was like arbitrary. And then I just realized like, why do I have to change everything?
See, that's perfect, because today we're talking about what the biggest mistakes people make for New Year's resolutions. And whether you like it or not, like whether you do resolutions or not, like people are still going to line up on January 1 and make some resolutions, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because I do think that it does feel good to like decide to start a new habit or something on like the new year, the new week, or the new month. Like it's something about doing that actually does feel, okay, we're wiping the slate clean. We're having a fresh start. So I get why people do it and get the pull to do that.
So let's get into the mistakes then. What do you say?
Yeah. What do you think the mistakes are?
Oh gosh, there's a million of them. Setting unrealistic fitness goals. People are too result focused, not process focused. Too many goals, instant results, lacking consistency. There's a million. So let's unpack one at a time. And I think the biggest one that most people do is they set these unrealistic fitness goals. And everyone knows the acronym, right? SMART. It needs to be specific. It needs to be measurable. It needs to be somewhat attainable, right? Realistic. And then, of course, timely. I always like to add E on the end, because I think E is enjoyable. And getting back to you, Darian, like it needs to be something worthwhile. It doesn't have to be like something like you're doing because your next door neighbor is doing, or your friend's doing, or that social media person is doing. It needs to be something relevant and super enjoyable for you, don't you think?
Yeah, I like that you said relevant, because I do think that is like one of the biggest mistakes I had, tend to make. And then I see other people make, like, I want to read a book every month. And it's like, that is a great goal, right? But it's like, well, why do you want to read a book every month? And that is more meaningful. And if you can't answer that why, then why bother with the goal? So like in terms of fitness, I think it's about asking yourself, why do you want to run that marathon this year? And then kind of like figuring out what is the deeper reason.
I always tell folks that there's an emotional goal and there's the superficial goal. So the superficial goal, and I remember talking about this with motivation too, with Andrew and Megan, is that the superficial goal is like, I want to lose the 10 pounds. I want to lose the 50 pounds. But really diving into the emotional goal, why do you want to lose it? Because I used to tell clients, if you want to lose 10 pounds, cool, we'll cut off a leg. Tell me why you want to do it. Oh, it's because I can have more energy to play with my grandkids, right? But I think keeping that attainable, keeping that relevant is the biggest mistake that people don't do. Like they don't make it real. They don't make it realistic and super meaningful. It's just a superficial thing because so-and-so saw somebody on TikTok and wants to do that.
Yeah, I would agree. It has to like make an impact in your life. One of the questions I like to ask myself, but also one of the questions I've always asked my clients, or have, in the last few years or so, asked my clients when talking about goals, is not what do you want to achieve, but how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel in 3 months, 6 months, in a year's time? And then we kind of work backwards from the feeling. What makes you feel that way? And then we figure out the actions.
That's legit. I like to ask people, yeah, that's really good. I ask people, like, okay, pretend that you achieved this goal. How is that going to make you feel better once you achieve that? And putting them in that frame of mind really gets down to brass tacks of like why they're even doing it in the first place, you know?
Yeah, I would agree because often, and I don't want to open up a can of worms because we can do a whole episode about goals specifically, but I think often if you think back to a time you've achieved a goal. So, Joey, can you think back to a time you've achieved a goal?
Oh, definitely. When we ran rim to rim to rim.
Okay. And right after that experience, how did you feel?
Oh, man. Felt like Superman on top of the world. I couldn't really move my legs, but felt unreal. But there was this, well, you know, of course, you go into, we're trainers, so we understand this. Like, for me, there's always got to be something like, what's next? That needs to be planted before you're done. Because most people, when they finish that, right, there's this huge letdown. I had this one client, Spearneck, we'll call him, and he finished his basement, right? And when he was done finishing his basement, he was in like a depression hole for like 2 months because there was this huge letdown of this process and the journey and the whatever. And then he finished it, right? He finished his basement, and then there's nothing else on the calendar. There's nothing to do. And so he's kind of kicking the can down the street sort of thing with wondering where to turn. So that's where I think people go. But to get back to your question, when I finished, I felt like Superman, but I was training for something else at the time, so I knew that it was a means to an end.
Yeah, I think that's what I was getting at, though, is like the expectation that accomplishing a goal is going to change your life now forever. And like, I finally made it here and now I'm different and now everything's better and greater and, you know, whatever it is. And in my experience, but I think a lot of people could relate because I have talked to people who have accomplished huge goals in their life. And the feeling is never like, wow, like that feeling happens for a second. And then and now I'm done. And now what? And, you know, where do I go from here?
This brings us to a great point. You know Robin Williams?
Mm-hmm.
Robin Williams, amazingly successful, right? He met every single goal he made for himself. And you got to Google this. He met every single goal. And he accomplished every single goal he set for himself. That just goes to show, we all know, right? He took his own life. And that just goes to show that goals aren't the end-all, be-all. I believe that they should be, well, we're going in the goals thing here, Darian, but I believe that the goal, yes, you should have goals. Because if you don't have goals, you'll run up and down the field all day long, you'll never score. But on top of that, you need something to at least outline your workouts, your mindset, your routine, your whole purpose, really, right? For me personally, a huge goal for me is I want to be the best dad possible. We got 2 kiddos. I want to be energetic. I want to be fit. I want to be strong. And a dad is never wrong when it comes to wisdom, by the way. And so I know that whether it's fitness or finance, I need to somehow realign those topics with my ultimate goal of being the best dad ever.
You know what's interesting about that goal, though, Joey, is that there's no end. You will forever be a dad now. There's no end. You're never going to, quote unquote, accomplish it. It's like the daily practice of accomplishing it in a sense. Like, because you're going to mess up. I mean, I'm a mom. I mess up multiple times every single day and then go, I'm kicking myself for like losing it. Okay, so sorry, you guys. I was feeling really frustrated. And then we get back on track. And then another thing happens. I'm like, I could have done better with that. It's just the process of messing up, figuring out why did that happen, getting back on course, and trying better next time. And like, honestly, like that's what I kind of think, like with fitness goals, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to get so much hate, I think. But I kind of think goals are stupid. I mean, not like the person making them is stupid. I think people have like real goals in mind, which is like, I want to run this 5K. I want to run this marathon. I've had goals. I want to deadlift 2 times my body weight. I want to, whatever it may be. But to me, and I think to you too, fitness never ends. Fitness is a lifelong endeavor. So you can have these little milestones along the way, these little checkpoints, but ultimately we're never going to stop doing fitness. And so I don't know what that means exactly, but like I think it's more just about like the daily accomplishment of doing something.
That's another mistake I had on this list was people are almost too results focused.
Mm.
They're not process focused. And so getting back to the point of what you just said about it never ends, right? Hopefully, right? Hopefully we never end fitness, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, in a sense, we never quote unquote reach those goals because we always want to be in the process of it.
That's the goal, right? Like never
That's the goal.
stopping fitness. That's the goal.
But how do people shift that mindset from results focused to then process focused?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because let's take a weight loss goal, for example. Because I know so many people have weight loss goals. And I think part of that is when, okay, well, what do you need to do to get to a weight loss goal? You would think, okay, well, first you could ask yourself, why do I want to lose this weight? And for a lot of people, I would think, for a lot of people, I want to feel more confident. I want to be healthier. And now I personally don't think that like you can say that someone is unhealthy because they're in a bigger body. There are tons of people who are perfectly healthy and they are in a bigger body, and there are tons of people in a smaller body who are not healthy. But these are the reasons I tend to think people want weight loss goals is to feel more confident, to be healthier, look better. But I think that goes into confidence. And then you think, okay, well, I want to be more confident, more capable, more comfortable in my body. I want to be healthier. What do I have to do to get to those things? And what would you say it is, Joey?
Well, it always starts with, who you truly are. And what I mean by this is like, where are you going to be? Again, getting back to the previous, where are you going to be when you lose that weight? Like, how is that going to make you better? How is that going to make you more confident? And you say, well, I'll be able to put on better clothes, right? But is that really going to make that much of a difference? Like is clothes now you're chasing clothes now, right? Or are you chasing like a certain physique that you once had? How is that going to shape the actual process? Like, how is that going to make this a finishing touch? Because when you get to those clothes or when you get to that physique, what's necessarily going to make you happier is in my opinion, is the fact that you got there. Like the journey, like I accomplished something, right? It's not necessarily the end goal because then you're going to be like asking yourself, now what? But again, what would you say? What would you say step one is of defining that, changing that mindset?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm getting at is like, okay, you think about, okay, the conventional wisdom about a weight loss goal is like, well, I need to move more. I need to clean up my diet, quote unquote. I want to drink more water. I want to get better sleep. Pretty basic stuff. And in doing all that, you start to feel more confident, more well rested, better about your lifestyle habits. You're getting healthier because you're moving more and you're eating more nutritious foods. And whether or not you got the weight loss, you're feeling all the things you wanted to feel. I think the realization of, can I feel the way I want to feel right now, even if I don't look the way I want to look? But you can ask yourself that about any goal you want to achieve. Why do I want to run that marathon? I want to prove to myself that I can do it, that I can do hard things, and I want to improve my cardio. Every day you go to train for that marathon, you're improving your cardio. Every day you go out to train, you're proving to yourself that you can do hard things. And I think that is the way you separate yourself from the end result and the journey, is because you're realizing every day, I'm doing the thing that I had set out to do. Whether or not you accomplish that marathon, every step forward is you becoming the person you want to be.
And the bigger question is, who are you going to be once you finish that marathon, right?
You. You're still going to be you.
Yeah, right? You're still going to be you. You're still going to be you. And so this ties into another mistake, right? Is this whole thing of setting too many goals, right? Setting too many goals, you don't really have one big rock you want to work on, right? In a great book that I recommend every human should read, Extreme Ownership by Jocko, there's this prioritization he had to do as a Navy SEAL. And to pick the most when there's a big decision placed on you fast, and you have to act fast. You have to prioritize and then attack, right? Prioritize and attack. If you have too many things to shoot at, you're like going to balance a million things in one, and one of them has to go. Whether it's training, whether it's some sort of sleep goal you have, whether it's some sort of nutrition goal. So I think the biggest thing that people need to do is when they sit down with themselves, well, number one, actually sit down and take the time, but to actually make one or two big rocks. I would say just one big rock. And Darian, you as a quote unquote goals are stupid person, what do you think that you would tell somebody who is just convinced I need to do all these millions of goals for, like, let's say you get a client, I want to do all these millions of goals for this new year. Where do I start? What do I do? What would you tell them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because also, I don't think goals are stupid for everyone. I know that there are people who are very, very highly motivated by goals. But what I would tell people who are thinking about all these things they want to accomplish is really think through what is realistic and sustainable. This kind of goes back to our motivation episode. Is like you have to set yourself up for success and to be consistent. And are you really going to be able to like go from this current life you're living to like, well, I know I want this goal, this goal, this goal. Okay, here's all the things I have to do. And now you have a totally different life. It's just not realistic. And I think being really honest with yourself about like, what can I actually do? What do I have the mental capacity and energy to do? And what can I stick with? And then just remembering that the tortoise won the race, slow and steady, because he wasn't going, acting like a fool, running all over the place and burning out. He just took it slow and steady, one step at a time.
I love it. Yeah, that's we'll use trainer Andrew, his shrink the habit, because it's what you can do that's repeatable and doable over the long haul. I think another big mistake, Darian, and you can argue with me on this one, is I think, especially in this TikTok, Instagram world we live in, that people focus way too much on this external motivation, on what other people are doing. Would you say that people do too much comparing with others in this day and age and not enough intrinsic looking in and what we really want? Would you agree with that?
I would. I mean, yeah, I think that is like a pretty common thing people talk about nowadays, is how easy it is to compare ourselves to others in every possible way. But the reality of the situation is like what you're seeing is curated. It's what that person wants you to see. It may not be that person's reality. And to remember that just because you think someone's life is a certain way or they look a certain way, that really may not be the truth. And it really doesn't serve you to compare yourself to others. It doesn't help you get anywhere faster. It probably more so than anything hinders your forward progress. And I think that this is all related, right? The comparison thing, and then that like want for instant results, instant feedback, or not feedback, but that instant outcome. And that again is also just not realistic. We're not there aren't going to be instant results, and I would even say the faster your results happen, the less sustainable they are, the less likely you are to continue having that same result. What do you think?
There's nothing instant. The only thing that's instant is Uncle Ben's rice, right?
I was just going to say that. I ate that for dinner last night.
Nothing is instant, right? I mean, well, it can be instant, but just like you said, the more instant it is, and the new shiny new toy that comes out in fitness, right? Whether it's a recovery tool or a mobility tool or a new barbell, whatever, I'm always skeptical on this thing because it promotes instant results, and that's how it sells, right? And unfortunately, anything that's instant is likely going to go away fast, and anything biological takes time. I mean, even cardiovascular adaptation takes a minimum of 3 weeks to actually adapt. That's done consistently. I think there is a secret to fitness though. And
You're going to tell us the secret to fitness?
I'm going to tell you the secret.
I cannot wait.
It starts with a C.
Uh-huh.
And it rhymes with consistency. Consistency. There's this saying our strength coaches would always tell us: consistency turns ordinary into excellence.
Groundbreaking.
Turns ordinary into excellence. And that's another thing. That's another mistake people make, is they just focus on instant results and they ignore the consistency piece of it. If you set out to make a New Year's goal and you just say, hey, my whole goal is I'm going to be consistent with workouts, whether that's 2 days a week, 3 days a week, one time a week, whether it's, hey, I'm going to be consistent with getting 6 hours of sleep, 7 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep, you're setting yourself up way more for success than anything. People just lack that consistency. Well, what do you think the secret to success is, or is there a secret?
Well, I do think it is consistency and sustainability, like making it truly sustainable for yourself. And I also think like not letting perfection be the enemy of done. Isn't that what people say? It's like, it doesn't have to be perfect, you know? Like the rigidity, I think it really stands in people's way in terms of sustainability. I hate when people are like, I'm off the wagon. It's like, all it takes to get back on the wagon is to stand up right now and do a couple squats. Right back on the wagon. There's no on or off. It's fluid. It's like, yeah, you didn't do your workouts last week. Who cares? Go do one today. And then you missed 2 days. Okay, who cares? Put that behind you. Right now is the time to start. Just go do another one and then evaluate. What happened last week that, I had to stay late at work last week. Okay, well, maybe you do a home workout instead of running to the gym after work because it's too late. Like, just make it simple. Keep making it simple. Don't get hung up on like, if it's not perfect, I'm not doing it. That all or nothing mindset, gets in people's way. And I was thinking about something when you were talking about consistency. And I can't remember what it was, but maybe come back to me. Well,
yeah, I want to talk about that perfectionism, okay? Because another mistake I think people make are they become so obsessed, right? Obsessed and crazy over this perfectionism, and kind of splitting off perfectionism. We'll talk about the I used to call it the obsessed crazy spectrum, okay? Almost psychotic spectrum.
Yeah.
Because I want people to like imagine this continuum, this line, right? And on the far end, you have these people who are obsessed. They're psychotic. They have to get in their exercise regardless. They have to be on their diet. They have to do this, whatever, right? And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have people who just like give two craps, right? They're not so obsessive. They're not so crazy. And I always tell clients, I want you to be right in the middle, but lean slightly toward the crazy spectrum, right? Because I don't want you to be lazy. And the obsessive people, it's not necessarily bad, okay? And I want to talk about these people because I've been around them, right?
Oh, I know them.
I got it. Yeah, everyone in the fitness industry knows them. But we need some people to be like that. And I'll give you a couple examples. Navy SEALs, right? Special Forces, Delta Force, right? One of my best clients, Rick, he had a son, Navy SEAL, spent some time around him. And there's always drawbacks to that, but he has to be in that mode. He's hardwired to be obsessive, especially on the battlefield, right? That's the extreme example. Another one, Simone Biles, Michael Phelps, right? They'll tell you The Weight of Gold. That's a great book. That they have to be obsessive to get that gold medal. You can't be on the other end of the spectrum, right? So there's a time and place to be on that side. But for the general overall audience, right, they need to dial it back a little bit so that they can pursue what is meaningful to them and not obsess and overly psychotic about that. That's my rant. Because that's the thing I'll say. There's a million, just like in your example, right? You're home late for work. Find another alternative because there's another way to Cheyenne, baby.
Yeah, 100%. Like, because I was an obsessive person. I was so obsessive about my workout routine, about my diet. If I missed it, I was shame spiraling. So obsessive. And one day it did occur to me, like, what am I doing this all for? I no longer enjoy my life. There is no spontaneity in my life. None. There's no world where I just go out to dinner and just, like order what I want. It's so strict. Or that I miss my workout to do something fun with my friends. There was no world where that was happening. If I'm an elite athlete, I have a vision, I have a mission. There's that's what you're saying, a time and a place. But for most people, the reason we work out ultimately is to enjoy our lives more. And if your workout is preventing you, if your plan is preventing you from enjoying your life more, it's time to reevaluate the plan. But what I was going to say, I remembered what I was going to say, it had to do with consistency, is it's and that's slow and steady, like the basics. I heard someone who's working with a trainer, a client, say, I mean, at this point, I feel like it made me laugh out loud. And as no fault to this client, like, people don't know. At this point, I feel like I should be doing more than just bending over. I thought, that's all I've been doing for 20 years is just bending over, standing up, bending over, standing up. It's all it is.
Were they snapping? Were they bend and snapping?
Bend and snap. It's such a good way to explain I was going to say like a kettlebell swing that like hips back, snap them forward. But I think the funny thing is like there isn't anything when it comes to weightlifting. It's like, that's all you're ever gonna do. It's the basics because it works.
What you said there about like, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I was definitely getting a little psychotic. It wasn't.
Wait, you were? You, Joey?
Oh yeah, I definitely was. I think every ex-athlete has been there at some point in their lives. But when you set something that's not enjoyable, right? Even if the goal, like, if you know for a fact that it's gonna suck and it's going to be brutal, that I don't want to discount that, because there is a sweetness there, a bitter sweetness of getting through this slog, of showing up every day, of suffering in a way that's not enjoyable. I don't want to discount that, but at least make that goal enjoyable. So like if you want to gain muscle, like we don't talk enough about gaining muscle in this podcast, right? If you do want to be that bodybuilder competing on stage, right? Picture yourself in that mindset of you accomplishing that goal, right? And honestly ask yourself, is that going to be enjoyable for the rest of my life? Because a lot of times when you come up with these goals, listeners, you're going to find that when you place yourself in that end result or in those shoes, it may or may not be where you want to be for the rest of your life. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. So let's, this ended up being kind of a goals episode. So it's a New Year's resolution goals episode. No better time to talk about it. So I would say, kind of like to wrap this up and tell me what you think of this. If somebody wanted to make a New Year's resolution, I think the first step would be, how do I want to feel? Why do I want to make a change? And then figure out what that change actually is. After you determine why it's important to you, so it's not just some arbitrary thing, what would the steps be to achieve that feeling? Break it down into really small milestones that you can be consistent with, that are sustainable for you in your life, and just pick like the one main thing you're gonna try to work for. And I would even say maybe it's not some big outcome at the end of the year. Yay, I've achieved this thing. Because again, what we're saying is like, then what? Maybe it's the goal is I want to finally get into an exercise routine I can do forever. And you spend the year figuring out, how do I create this routine for myself? Because I want to feel more confident, more capable, stronger, and more energized. Those are the things I want to feel. An exercise routine is going to be one of the steps to get me there. And I know for sure I can go to the gym twice a week for 30 minutes. I know I can do that. Okay, start there. You can always build. And don't let social media inform your decisions.
Good luck.
Look inward. Maybe we take social media off our phones for a bit as we're starting the year. I took social media off my phone at the end of the summer, and I've not gone back since, and it's been great. So focus on you. Look inward. The answers are not outside of you. All the answers you need are within you.
I love it.
I think those are my...
I love it because... Yeah, like you, Darren, I deleted my Facebook over 10 years ago and Instagram over a year ago. And to draw back, especially being in the fitness industry, right, as us as trainers, to unplug from that is amazing. Mm-hmm. And so listeners, just the fact, if I were to give a step, right, just sit down, find time, make some coffee, make some tea, sit down and truly ask yourself, as you make these goals, or goal, which I think you should do, am I going to be happier if I accomplish it? Am I going to be happy during the process of it? Am I going to celebrate small wins along the way? Because if you just do those things, you're going to set yourself up for success, rather than base your entire goal, your entire journey, your entire 2025 based on somebody else's. So focus intrinsically, draw the attention from within, just as you, Darian, said, and you're going to be successful no matter what. So
I want to say one thing.
Of course you do.
Oh, well, you're going to kick yourself when I say it, which is that one of the best things in 2024 was starting this podcast with you. And I can't wait to continue into 2025. And I think we're going to have some amazing discussions to come.
I definitely think so too. And listeners, if you haven't already, please give us a 5-star review. I want you to share the show with everybody, mom, grandma, your dogs, your cats, because we want to help as many people as we can. As always, we thank you so much for listening, and we wish you the best of luck in 2025.
Check the link in our show description and podcast episode if you want to give Trainwell a shot and meet with your very own personal trainer who can absolutely help you to figure out how you want to feel and help you set those meaningful but realistic goals. We can't wait to continue talking to you in 2025.
Happy New Year!